Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Keyamo reveals plan for aircraft manufacturing in Nigeria. Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, has announced plans to establish an aircraft manufacturing firm in Nigeria as part of efforts to boost the nation's aviation industry. This was revealed during the launch of the Jet's Maintenance, Repair and Overhaul MRO facility in Abuja, a project in partnership with local banks aimed at transforming Nigeria into a regional aviation hub. Keyamo emphasized the inclusion of a training center and other facilities, positioning the development as a game changer for West Africa's aviation sector. He praised the collaboration with indigenous operators, describing it as a step towards self-sufficiency and regional leadership. The JET CEO Emmanuel Iza highlighted the facility's job creation potential, expecting to increase the workforce from 300 to over 1,200. He also outlined plans for Nigeria to contribute to global aircraft manufacturing through component production, solidifying the country's position in the global aviation space. Joining us this morning is Olumide Ohunayo, is the General Secretary, Aviation Safety Roundtable Initiative. Art. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. All right, so Nigeria to manufacture aircrafts. I mean, I never thought this day would come, but this is what's on the news this morning. First, what's your opinion about this? What's your take on this? Do you think, what's the vision? Why? I know we're trying to boost our economy, but what's the bigger picture behind all of this? And do you think we are ready to start to manufacture aircrafts in Nigeria?
Let me start from where you ended it. We are not ready. We are not ready, and it shouldn't be a priority. I am saying that because for the civil aviation, the regulation is very tight, and the certification from international bodies. Once you don't get to certifications, there will be nobody that will touch those aircrafts. And this has happened because that's as strong as China is, as developed as China is, they've never been able to sell their C919 and their A189. These are aircraft manufactured by the Chinese to compete with Boeing and Airbus. And this single aisle aircraft have not been able to sell beyond China. They are just trying to get a customer now in Vietnam, and which was the close ally of China. So civil aircraft go through a lot of certification and processes from different organizations, and if this organization do not do the certification, you might not be able to sell this aircraft beyond your immediate environment. And are we ready for that? If it was a military aircraft, yes, you can go ahead and you won't manufacture. But I tell you, remember that the immediate past minister went through the same fantasy of joy with the story that we did before the end of that government. They were going to start manufacturing aircraft in Zaria, and that never came to pass. But when you look at the headline of yesterday's groundbreaking in the event by the ex-Jet CEO, you would notice that what they actually meant was that they were talking about aircraft components, and I think that makes more sense, that's more reasonable than saying manufacturing aircraft. Aircraft components you can easily work with some partners, and that's what the organization is doing, working with banks, and they can then start looking for quality technical partnership that can make it eligible to be marketed around the world and get the real certification. But going for an aircraft manufacturer itself, that is not a priority. We are not ready. We don't even have the strong domestic market to take this aircraft. We can just as well continue to develop our infrastructure, spend that energy and time on developing our infrastructure, improving the passenger employment, and getting more organizations to build maintenance repair organizations and all that components manufacturing aircraft components manufacturing companies within the aviation industry. I think that should be our priority. Morocco, Egypt, Ethiopia, South Africa are ahead of us in this aviation business in Africa, and yet not one of them is into aircraft manufacturing. So I don't think that should be a priority, which allows this to get agreed and boost the aviation's contribution to the country's GDP.
So when I even saw the headline, I chuckled a little bit because I'm like, we don't even have our own national carrier yet. talk more about, the big ambitious project of creating or manufacturing aircraft. But aside the regulatory framework you've spoken about, which is, getting all of the licenses and certifications and all of that, because nobody will touch it, do you think it's feasible to even say we can do this when it comes to the infrastructure and the technical expertise of all of this? Because this takes a whole lot of work. And like you've said, China, they're far ahead of us, but with the certifications, they are not able to, sell out these aircrafts. But even for Nigeria, do you think we have the technical expertise yet and the infrastructure to be able to manufacture aircrafts in Nigeria?
Well, once you have the funds, once you have excess funds to play with, technical expertise will appear, materials will appear, but then will they be profitable? Will it not be a big elephant, a white elephant project? That's what we're looking at now. That shouldn't be a priority. We should rather, if it was the ministry, yes, we will go through student certification or regulation. You could just go ahead and start building your military aircraft and you sell to fellow African countries and some other maybe third countries, without any issue. But when it comes to civil aviation, you just cannot put an aircraft in the market without the necessary certification. And once you don't have it, then you will just wasted a lot of money. But we're seeing we have more pressing problems within the aviation industry. That should be a priority. We should look at how we can improve the GDP, aviation's contribution to GDP. And the only way you can do that, you need to increase aircraft services, production of services, and then increase the number of passengers that will be flying within the Nigerian airspace. Once you do that, then you have the ecosystem, aviation ecosystem more busy, and then we're not talking about what we're looking at, what we can do to ensure that as we have these flights and we have passengers flying, then we can work on how the fares will drop and drop to encourage more flyers, because you make more money when you have more flyers than when you have higher fares. And I think that should be our priority, and that includes building and improving infrastructure that's in place, and also see how we can operate most of the airports that are abandoned. I think that should be more of our priority right now, rather than going into that ground just waiting on my.
Okay, so let's just have an hypothesis. Let's say, for instance, we have the certification, and it's something that we definitely need to look into. How do you think we're supposed to probably get the funding and address some local issues? For instance, we don't have constant power in Nigeria. That would always pose as a challenge right now. But if we had the funds, how do you think we're supposed to, or rather, if we have the certification, or if it's something that we definitely want to do, how do you think we should go about it?
No, I think I would not encourage it. And I want to work on any scenario that would encourage it. But I can tell you that the non-Nigerian bank would put a dime in such projects, considering how risky and the tying down of the funds for a long time. But if you look at that report, what about ExyJet? It's actually building a maintenance repair organization. What my MRO here is a company that will repair some components of aircraft and some aircraft itself. And in the process, they will be trained, they will have a training school, they will be training some people, and they're also having a dream of manufacturing aircraft components, some aircraft components. And there's nothing wrong with that dream. That's good. We have countries like I mentioned earlier in Africa that are already manufacturing aircraft components. So it will be good for Nigeria to also join. That would also help in reducing demand for reducing the pressure on demand for forex by the airlines and other aviation related to buy some of these components outside the country. So good idea. That's what ExyJet just said. And I said the banks are working with them. But buying or manufacturing aircraft was not part of that statement. How it became a headline report and how that entered the speech of the minister is something that still baffles me. You don't just wake up in the morning until you want to manufacture aircraft. It takes due diligence. You look at what the market really wants, what you are lacking, and how that can be an advantage to your country and to the organization that wants to do that. But I can tell you there will no private investor that would go to manufacture civil aircraft now in Nigeria without taking the bullet.
Okay, so like you've clarified now, it's components, not manufacturing the aircraft itself, repair, MRO, which is great. And I think that's something that we definitely we could embrace, because if we're going to be having training centers, of course, there are people, is job creation. So how do you think this is going to impact, our economy? How do you think the GDP is going to contribute to the GDP? And of course, bring employment to the people, job creation to the people?
Yeah, I think the CEO of XGS, Manuel, made that very clarification yesterday, saying that they have about 300 staff, and I would say,
looking at 1,200,
they have the staff of quadruple, and that's the beauty of aviation and every other services within the industry. Once there's an improvement in service, once there's an increase in production, once you have organizations that are willing to expand and provide services, you are sure about that you have more Nigerians that will be employed, and that's expected. The entire aviation ecosystem benefits because for those working around the airport, for those providing services around the airport, the hotels, and even eateries are all going to benefit from expanded production within the area. And also the agencies themselves, they get their taxes from these organizations, and they provide the services. The government collects taxes from the salaries, and other taxes by the states and local government. And you see how that quality goes down the line, and everybody enjoys. So we must work assiduously to see how we can provide the services, how we can improve the production within the industry. And I'm happy to see that, with the LCGS MRO coming up now, we are having about 4 or 5 organizations now who are working assiduously to give us a standard MRO, and I just hope they will all be able to achieve it. We have the IBOM government, the federal government is also working on one, and we also have 2 other organizations in Lagos State. They have Aero, who is providing one, and I think there are 7 stars. So if all these organizations can put together this MRO, then you are seeing what will happen with the Nigerian airlines now. With the reduction in cost of maintenance, with this reduction, they reduce the pressure on the naira to getting the dollars for the services. Other airlines within the sub-region would also be coming to Nigeria to take some of the services, thereby generating more foreign currencies for the country. And all those aircraft begin to come in for repair in Nigeria, it also means other organizations within the system will also benefit from the services and from the aircraft that is coming in, by providing them fuel information, fuel, catering if catering is needed. And at times, those aircraft will also be quickly chartered for other services, and that will bring that's also a way of generating revenue.
Okay, so what do you think should be our priority now, especially if we're not going to be manufacturing aircrafts? Maybe the components, yes, but the aircrafts itself. In your opinion, what do you think should be our priority now? If we want, because you spoke about how Morocco and other countries are, ahead of us when it comes to the aviation game, right? So if we're trying to put ourselves as leaders in the aviation sector, a leader in Africa, what should be our priority now? How can we get there while contributing to our GDP?
Basically, we are still we have lost our strength or our mojo on the international routes, and I think we need to get that back. And in doing that, we cannot just sit down and wait for all the airpiece. There's a need for us to look at having a second carrier that would join that route. So it might be government initiated, it might be from the other private operators coming together, but I think there's a need for us to have a strong carrier on the international route. We might only look at, I am of the opinion of we should work along with the friendly ECOWAS country. Liberia, Syria, all these countries do not have a strong carrier. We can ask them to join in the process of having a strong carrier for the sub-region, and maybe call it an Eco Air, or whatever name we want to call it. But then we will lay the process. Then if we can build a carrier that can move freely, that can provide services within the region, that carrier can also, within a period of time, move beyond the region and begin to do strong international flight for not only Nigeria and for the other West African countries, countries who are partners in it. You see, I think the time of saying I want to go it alone, I want to have my tail on the aircraft, that time has gone now. What we need is a strong airline that would support the region, rather than what we're having now, whereby other airlines and for foreign countries and outside the West African region and even outside Nigeria are eating our cake, and we're just sitting down there and not be able to reciprocate or even provide some social service. I think it's time for the West African countries who have the same dream to come together, and Nigeria should lead that process of having a strong career to dominate the region, dominate the sub-region, the African region, and also start moving towards Europe. And if you have all those countries put together, then you also have multiple bilateral services agreements which are owned by each of these countries that can capitalize and use them. Then coming back home, since you've talked about what I want, I think that there's a need to improve the infrastructure facilities at the airport. There's a need to look at some of the taxes and charges that are impeding expansion. And I also think that there's a need for us to review some of the regulatory things we have in place right now. One of them is the age of aircraft that can be brought into Nigeria. I think they're saying that they must have minimum of 20 years. It must not be older than 20 years. It's not encouraging some of those smaller airports to fly, because those smaller airports need smaller aircraft, and most of those aircraft don't come brown. But they are hospited, they are refitted, and newer engines put in them. These aircraft are flying in other countries, helping to develop those small airports and bringing passengers to the big airports. When you want to talk about big airports here, we are looking at Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Abuja. So if those small aircraft have to come in, then we need to review that regulation. And once we review that regulation, then you now have flights to the smaller airports. And when you have flights to the smaller airports, you're going to increase the usage of Nigerian airspace. You're going to improve professionalism. You're going to have more Nigerians have jobs, and you generate more revenue for all the agencies and their aviation ecosystem itself.
I love the fact that you just ended with generating revenue. I know that we had spoken one time when we're talking about some monies that were being trapped here. And of course, as a result of that, flight expenses is so much right now. In generating revenue for the country or for the aviation system, because at the end of the day, you want more money, and when you have more money, you can put that into your capital again and say, okay, let's work on this project. So in generating revenue, how can we go about it to be able to tell Nigerians that, yes, you can afford our flights? Because in as much as we want, to make large amounts of money, if people are not flying as much, then we're not going to make all of that. And we are not probably going to have a national carrier, right? But if we're saying we want to get more money, more revenue, to be able to look at a project for a national carrier, what is the thing that we need to be doing? What are the steps to follow right now?
We don't need we might not even look at the number of passengers we have on those routes now to say to determine whether we want a national carrier. I don't want to use a national carrier. I want a national carrier because of the controversies that are there in the past. But I'm looking at a carrier for the sub-region whether Nigeria will lead it. Like I said, we are weak on international routes, and we only we can improve international. We need to participate. In participating, Nigeria needs to, if they don't have the private sector unable to lead that process, then the federal government can lead the process while giving the private sector the power to manage and run the efficiently. But then, when you have airlines, expanded airlines, the bottom line for everyone is to see that you have more passengers. And how are you going to get more passengers? Which is your question. Because this is a fact. There are no airports without an airline, and there are no airports without passengers. So and the airlines will not survive with having passengers. So we need to improve implement getting more passengers to fly. But how do you get passengers to fly? You must be able to provide services. What we have now is we have regulated services into some airports. We have one and some airports. Most of the airports do not open beyond 6 p.m. And that is limiting the operational hours and travel window for passengers. So that needs to be addressed. Again, one of the things I said before was the regulations concerning age limit of aircraft. We have airlines, foreign airlines flying into the country with aircraft that are more than 20 years, and they are flying effectively in. So why are we limiting our own airline organization to 20 years? Or the third thing I'm looking at is we can
But could that be for safety,
encourage the use of investors, set up a new
could that be for
group of
safety?
investors
Excuse me, sir.
that will operate smaller aircraft.
Yeah.
You know,
I was going to ask.
Group of investors will have ticket and this one lower financial entry requirements.
Okay, so I was going to ask, you know, the limit, the time limit for it, that's 20 years. Couldn't that be for safety? Because, I mean, we've seen cases, so we've seen other aircrafts, you know, get crashed. So isn't that just to say, because we're trying to save the lives of Nigerians, then this is the benchmark, this is the time factor that we've put in place to ensure that they are not obsolete and they don't crash?
Don't buy into that issue of safety on the encouragement to age. The only cost that's related to age of aircraft is the cost of maintaining those aircraft and running it. That's how it's not safety. Safety is not impeded. But we have seen newer aircraft crash all over the world. You know, even 6 months old aircraft owned by Kenya. So it's not about I'm sorry I had to mention Kenya, but it's not about the age of an aircraft that makes it safe. It's about the regulations you put in place and sanctity you put in regulations, monitoring and ensuring that the airlines meet with the requirements. Again, you have the investigators, the NSIB, who provide reports on each of those past incidents. What you also need to do to improve your safety is to begin to look at those reports and implement them implement them immediately. Those that are not implemented, I know that will ensure that all the agencies, all the airlines, and other service providers follow through with the advice on the certain safety issues raised. So I don't think we should relate it to the issue of safety. That was what was used to sell that when we were having issues with crashes in Nigeria. But then it was not because of the aircraft; it was because of the weak regulation, implementation, and monitoring of those airlines. And that's a thing of the past. It will never happen again in Nigeria.
Amen to that. So what's the way forward now? If you think we need to, just whip up the aviation system, what are some things that you think we need to put in place?
Taking back to the same question, I think I've said it before. We have a minister now who talks more with the foreign organizations, who is also making efforts for aircraft to be available, both leased, the lease purchase, the leasing or owned by airlines. And in doing this, he has been able to convey the international community with the practice direction on the Cape Town Convention that whoever leases or give any equipment to any Nigerian aviation company, that those equipment will be returned as assets when due. So with that's supposed to encourage the airlines to have access to aircraft and equipment at a cheaper rate than what was because those organizations are afraid of our laws and the power to possess their equipment. So they always give us higher lease rates and higher assurance fees to pay. But now with that, that's one of the things the government have done officially in the last 1 year in bringing the confidence of the manufacturers of lessors that Nigerians now we are putting the laws that we safeguard your equipment, give it to our organizations, and let's let them operate. And I think that's what the others are going to do moving forward. Again, if you look at in the past, the naira was also unstable. It was very difficult to plan. But now that it's stable, they match all markets. There's no special rates anymore. That's also aid the airlines in planning. We will not have the issue of travel anymore. So none of the foreign airlines will be taking their money and say they're going to look for the official rate from the bank. Everybody now you are now empowered to stop your foreign exchange from wherever you want. You have because the rate in the official market is the same as the black market. So everybody has the willingness to source funds, and that's does not trap the government into holding some naira for organizations and say when they get dollar, they will look for that for official. And that's helping to also have more frequencies, giving the airlines, the foreign airlines confidence to to increase the aircraft gauge and increase more flights into Nigeria.
All right, thank you so much for that. Thank you, sir. So I'm sure from what we've said now, this should be a mission that should be aborted when it comes to manufacturing the aircrafts. But if it's, getting those repairs, components, then that's something we should definitely look into and look for ways to just ensure that the aviation system is better. Thank you so much, Olumide. It's been a pleasure having you this morning on our program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, sir. All right, we've been speaking with Olumide Ohunayo. Is a General Secretary Aviation Safety Roundtable Initiative. And we've just been looking at the fact that the Aviation Minister has said Nigeria will start to manufacture aircrafts. We'll go on a short break now. When we return, we'll move over to the U.S., where Trump seeks to end birthright citizenship with executive order. Please stay with us.